What if I told you that you could grow 20 different types of fruit trees in pots on a balcony, a terrace, or inside your apartment, without a garden, without a yard, without agricultural land, and that some of these trees start producing fruit in the first year? The fruit tree industry has been selling for decades the idea that you need land, irrigation systems, and agricultural knowledge to produce fruit. The truth is that modern horticulture has developed dwarf, semi-dwarf, and compact varieties specifically designed for pot cultivation that produce full-sized fruit in spaces smaller than a dining table. Today I'm showing you 20. Stay until the end, because number 9, the dwarf fig, can produce 2 harvests per year in a 40-liter pot on a sunny balcony. And number 19 is going to completely change what you think about growing tropical fruit outside the tropics. Subscribe to Ancient Harvest, because every week we document the food revolution the industry doesn't want you to know about. Here are the 20 fruit trees that grow without a garden, from the easiest to the absolutely extraordinary. Number 1. Dwarf lemon, the easiest and most productive fruit tree in a pot. The dwarf Meyer lemon, Citrus X Meyeri, is considered the ideal pot fruit tree because it combines compact size, maximum height of 1.5 meters, with continuous production throughout the year in warm climates. A 40-liter pot with good drainage and a minimum of 6 hours of direct sunlight can produce between 20 and 50 lemons per year. The Meyer variety is hardier, more cold-tolerant, and sweeter than common lemons. Water when the top 5 centimeters of substrate are dry. The most versatile ingredient in any kitchen, available fresh from your own balcony year-round. Number 2. Dwarf mandarin, the orange the whole family loves from your own terrace. The dwarf mandarin, Citrus reticulata, in compact varieties like clementine or satsuma, produces full-sized fruit in pots of 40 to 60 liters. Mandarins are easier to peel than oranges, seedless in many varieties, and extremely popular with children. The tree rarely exceeds 1.50 meters in a pot and can produce 20 to 40 fruits per season. It needs a minimum of 6 hours of direct sunlight and regular watering. The fruit the whole family fights over at dessert time is the same one growing 3 meters from the table. Number 3. Dwarf kumquat, the miniature citrus you eat whole, peel, and all. The kumquat, Fortunella margarita, is the most compact citrus on this list. In a 30-liter pot, it rarely exceeds 1 meter. It produces small oval fruits that are eaten whole, including the sweet peel, with a tart interior. A single tree can produce hundreds of tiny fruits in a single season. It's also the most cold-tolerant citrus, surviving brief frosts down to -10 degrees Celsius. The kumquat's advantage for apartment dwellers. Its small size means it can be placed on a windowsill with good sun. The smallest citrus on this list is also the most productive per cubic centimeter of space occupied. Number 4. Potted strawberry, the fruit that produces in the first season. Strawberry, Fragaria ex ananassa, isn't a tree, but it deserves a place on this list because it's the fastest fruit to produce in a pot, from transplant to first harvest in 45 to 60 days. Ever-bearing varieties produce continuously from spring through fall. A 20-centimeter pot is enough for a single plant, and a balcony railing planter can hold 6 to 8 plants, producing enough strawberries for a family's weekly consumption. Strawberries cost between $3 and $8 per container at the supermarket. 6 plants in a railing planter produce that amount weekly for months. The fruit with the fastest return on investment on this entire list. Number 5. Blueberry bush in a pot, the most expensive berry at the supermarket that grows in acidic soil. Blueberry, Vaccinium corymbosum, in dwarf varieties like Top Hat or Sunshine Blue, grows perfectly in 40-liter pots with acidic substrate, pH between 4.5 and 5.5. A single bush can produce between 1 and 3 kilos of blueberries per season once mature. Blueberries are among the most expensive berries at the supermarket, often costing $4 to $8 for a small container. They need a minimum of 6 hours of direct sun and consistent watering with non-alkaline water. The most expensive berry in your shopping cart is also one of the easiest to grow in a pot if you get the soil acidity right. Number 6. Dwarf pomegranate, the ornamental tree that produces real fruit. The dwarf pomegranate, Punica granatum nana, in its compact variety, produces golf ball to tennis ball sized pomegranates on a tree that doesn't exceed 1 meter in a 30-liter pot. The fruits are smaller than market pomegranates but contain the same puniclagins, the polyphenols with the highest antioxidant activity documented among all fruits. It tolerates heat, drought once established, and produces ornamental orange-red flowers even when young. The tree Solomon used to decorate the temple also decorates your balcony and produces the most antioxidant fruit in modern nutrition. Pause for a moment. 6 fruit trees. All of them in pots. All of them producing real, full-sized fruit in spaces smaller than a square meter each. While the supermarket raises fruit prices every season, these trees produce for years, even decades, with just water, sunlight, and occasional fertilizer. Hit the like button now. Every like helps more people discover that fruit production doesn't require a farm. Now comes the truly extraordinary part. Number 7. Grapevine in a pot, the vineyard on your balcony. Grape, Vitis vinifera, in compact table varieties like Pixie or Thompson seedless, can grow and produce in pots of 60 liters or more with a small trellis or support. A single vine can produce between 2 and 5 kilos of grapes per season once established. Grapes need at least 8 hours of direct sun and a support structure for the climbing stems. The vine is one of the oldest cultivated fruit plants in human history. You don't need a vineyard. You need a pot, a support stick, and patience. The vine Noah planted works in containers, too. Number 8. Passion fruit on a balcony trellis, the tropical vine that produces in its first year. Passion fruit, Passiflora edulis, is a vigorous climbing vine that in a 40-liter pot with a trellis can produce fruit in its first year from seedling. Its exotic, fragrant flowers are among the most spectacular of all cultivated plants. The fruit contains vitamin C, vitamin A, iron, and passiflorin, a compound with documented mild sedative properties. It needs warmth, sun, and a support structure. The tropical fruit that costs premium prices at gourmet stores can grow on a balcony trellis in any warm climate. Number 9. Dwarf fig. And here we arrive at the one I promised in the hook. The dwarf fig, Ficus carica, in compact varieties like Petite Negra or Little Miss Figgy, produces full-sized figs in 40-liter pots on a sunny balcony. The extraordinary part, figs produce 2 harvests per year. The first, called breba, comes in early summer from last year's wood. The second, the main crop, comes in late summer from new growth. A single dwarf fig can produce 20 to 50 figs per year in a pot. Figs don't travel well, which is why fresh figs at markets cost between $4 and $12 per small basket. The fruit that costs the most precisely because it's fragile is also the one you can pick fresh and ripe on your own balcony. The fig tree is also one of the oldest cultivated trees in human history, predating even wheat and barley. Number 10. Dwarf apple on dwarfing rootstock. Yes, real apples in a pot. Dwarf apple varieties, Malus domestica, grafted onto M27 or M9 dwarfing rootstock, produce full-sized apples on trees that don't exceed 1.5 meters in 60-liter pots. Varieties like Gala, Fuji, and Granny Smith are available on dwarf rootstock from specialty nurseries. One important detail: most apple varieties need a pollination partner, a second different variety nearby. Plant 2 different varieties side by side on the balcony. A pair of dwarf apples can produce 10 to 30 apples each per season. The fruit that changed the world's agriculture grows in pots too, once you understand the rootstock. Number 11. Cherry tomato tree. The most productive plant per liter of pot. Cherry tomato, Solanum lycopersicum var. Cericiform. In indeterminate varieties like Sweet 100 or Sun Gold, can grow up to 2 meters tall, supported by a stake in a 25-liter pot, and produce over 500 individual fruits in a single season. That makes it arguably the most productive plant per liter of pot on this entire list. Cherry tomatoes need at least 8 hours of direct sun, consistent watering, and regular feeding. The plant that produces the most food per unit of space is also one of the easiest to grow for beginners. Number 12. Potted raspberry. The woodland berry that adapts to containers. Raspberry, Rubus idaeus, in compact varieties like raspberry shortcake or brazzleberries, grows and produces in 40-liter pots without the spreading runners that make raspberries invasive in gardens. These compact varieties are thornless, self-pollinating, and produce sweet berries in summer. A single plant can produce between 500 grams and 1 kilo of raspberries per season. Fresh raspberries at the supermarket cost between $4 and $7 for a small container. The berry that tastes best fresh from the plant is also the one that loses quality fastest after picking. Another reason to grow your own. We're in the final stretch, and what's coming includes the tropical trees most people believe can't be grown outside the tropics, and the tree with the most extraordinary nutritional story on this entire list. I spent over 200 hours researching pot cultivation techniques, rootstock compatibility, dwarf variety availability, and production rates for every tree on this list. I compiled everything in a digital guide with the recommended pot sizes, substrate formulas, fertilization schedules, and pruning protocols for each of the 20 trees, plus more than 30 additional ones. The link is the first thing in the description. Subscribe to Ancient Harvest because number 19 is going to change everything you think about growing tropical fruit in a temperate climate. Number 13, avocado from seed. The long game that pays off spectacularly. Avocado, Persea americana, can be grown from the seed of any avocado you buy at the store. Suspend the pit halfway in water using toothpicks, wait for roots and a stem, then transplant to a large pot. The honest truth? Seed-grown avocados take 5 to 13 years to fruit, and the fruit may not be identical to the parent. But grafted dwarf varieties from nurseries like Day or Holiday can produce in 3 to 4 years in a 50-liter pot. The tree the Aztecs called the fertility tree grows slowly, but rewards patience spectacularly. Number 14. Dwarf banana. The tropical tree that grows indoors. Dwarf banana, Musa acuminata dwarf Cavendish, or super dwarf, grows to only 1 to 1.5 meters and can produce small bunches of sweet bananas in a large pot indoors or on a warm balcony. It needs warmth, humidity, and bright indirect light. In tropical and subtropical climates, production is reliable. In temperate climates, it makes a spectacular indoor ornamental that may fruit in especially warm years. The tropical fruit nobody thinks can grow in an apartment can, in the right dwarf variety. Number 15. Guava in a pot. The tropical vitamin C bomb. Guava, Psidium guajava, in dwarf varieties can produce fruit in 40-liter pots in warm climates. A single guava has 5 times more vitamin C than an orange by equivalent weight. The tree is self-pollinating, produces fragrant fruit, and can begin bearing in its second or third year from a nursery plant. It needs warmth and sun, but tolerates some drought once established. The tropical fruit, with the highest vitamin C content of all common fruits, grows in a pot with far less water than most people think. Number 16. Dwarf olive tree. The Mediterranean classic, in a pot. The olive tree, Olea europea, in dwarf varieties like Arbequina or Picholine, can produce real olives in 40-liter pots on a sunny balcony. Olives take about 5 months from flowering to harvest. A mature dwarf olive can produce 1 to 3 kilos of olives per season. The tree lives for centuries and becomes more productive with age. It needs at least 6 hours of direct sun and minimal watering once established. The tree that built Mediterranean civilization also works on a 21st century balcony. Number 17. Potted peach on dwarfing rootstock. The summer fruit from your terrace. Dwarf peach, Prunus persica, on dwarfing rootstock like Bonanza or Pix Z, produces full-sized peaches on a tree that doesn't exceed 1 meter 20 in a 40-liter pot. Peaches are self-pollinating, meaning you only need one tree. They bloom spectacularly in spring with pink flowers before producing fruit in summer. A single tree can produce 10 to 20 peaches per season. The fruit that tastes best at the peak of ripeness is also the one that's hardest to find ripe at the supermarket. Another reason to grow your own. Number 18. Mulberry tree in a pot. The forgotten fruit that feeds and heals. Mulberry, Morus nigra, in compact varieties, can produce abundantly in large pots. The fruit is so fragile it can't be commercially shipped, which is why most people have never tasted a ripe mulberry. That fragility is your advantage. The only way to eat a truly ripe mulberry is to grow your own. Mulberries are rich in resveratrol, anthocyanins, and vitamin C. The tree is extraordinarily hardy, drought-tolerant, and can produce for decades. The fruit the market can't sell is the one that's most worth growing yourself. Number 19. Indoor dwarf citrus under grow lights. The tropical orchard in your living room. And here we arrive at the number I promised. Modern LED grow lights have made it possible to grow citrus trees indoors year-round, even in cold climates with dark winters. A 16-hour light cycle from a 40-watt full-spectrum LED positioned 30 centimeters above a dwarf Meyer lemon or calamondin provides enough light for the tree to photosynthesize, bloom, and produce fruit 12 months a year. The initial investment in a quality LED light is between $20 and $50, and it uses less electricity than a standard light bulb. The tropical fruit orchard in your living room, producing citrus in January in a northern climate, powered by a single LED light. Modern technology serving the oldest agricultural dream. Number 20. Moringa in a pot. The most nutritious tree on the planet in your own home. Moringa, Moringa oleifera, closes this list not for its fruit, but for its extraordinary leaves. Moringa grows aggressively, reaching 3 meters in a year in tropical climates, but in a large pot, it can be kept compact through regular harvesting of its growing tips. Its leaves have 7 times more vitamin C than oranges, 4 times more calcium than milk, twice more protein than yogurt, and 4 times more vitamin A than carrots, according to the FAO. You harvest the leaves continuously and eat them fresh or dried as powder. A bag of moringa seeds costs $3. In tropical or warm climates, the tree grows from seed to harvestable size in 8 to 12 weeks. The FAO calls it the miracle tree. You can grow it in a pot on your terrace and harvest the most nutritious leaves on the planet every week. 20 trees. 20 demonstrations that the concept of a home orchard doesn't require land. It requires pots, sunlight, water, and the knowledge of which varieties to choose. The fruit industry is built on the assumption that you depend on them. Every tree you plant on your balcony is a step toward food independence. Start with the simplest: the dwarf lemon, the strawberry, the cherry tomato. These three alone give you fruit in the first season. Add one new tree per month. In 2 years, you'll have a balcony orchard producing fresh fruit that the supermarket can't match in flavor, freshness, or nutritional value. Leave me a comment and tell me which tree you're going to plant first and what space you have available. And remember, the complete guide with all the trees, pot sizes, substrate formulas, and pruning schedules is available right now. First link in the description. Subscribe to Ancient Harvest. The orchard you've been dreaming of fits on your balcony. All it was waiting for was you.